we have code of ethics also. So, okay. So what, yes, got it. It is recording. Okay. Okay. So journalism, as we have already discussed, journalism is nothing but the recording of events for the purpose of disseminating information for the benefit of the readers, viewers, and the listeners in the previous class. And we have also discussed about the functions of journalism. So from the beginning, how the communication has disseminated for the purpose of social education, promoting family planning, or eradicating the social evils like practice of sati, uh, then uh, abolition of this child marriages, etc. And there were many more. And there are prominent social reformers who fought for promoting the social education and reform the society, etc. They have launched different newspapers, and even the broadcast media like All India Radio and Doordarshan, they also started for providing information and education and also entertainment for the viewers and listeners.
Yeah.
Apart from, apart from that, the media also serves as a watchdog of the society. We have already discussed, and it also provides a lot of information and it promotes education in the country with the help of by disseminating information for the benefit of the mass media audiences. And there are special pages which which are printed to promote education, and there are different channels exclusively which are launched. If you see the All India Radio Gyanvani station, or if you see the countrywide classroom program, etc. These are the channels, or TSAT. Those are exclusively meant for promoting the formal education in the country. So here, media or the journalism also acts as a watchdog of the society. It keeps an eye on the all the pillars of the democracy, and media is considered as the fourth estate along with the judiciary, administration, and legislature. So here, media or the journalism is something which is there in a society for the benefit of the public. It promotes the public good. It promotes the health of the individuals in a society. It acts as a watchdog of the society, and it also provides information. Along with that, it also provides entertainment for the public. And journalism is, as we have discussed, under the gatekeeping function. There are a lot of issues which are happening throughout the globe. But what are the issues which covers by the media? Again, there is an agenda. Media cannot accommodate all the events or the stories which are happening throughout the globe. But keeping in view the interests of the public, or in the interest of the public, only some kind of information is disseminated for the benefit of the mass media audiences. So here, the media disseminates a limited amount of information with the help of the mass media channels in a way which is to cater the various needs of the individuals in a society. So here, information like there are a lot more information depending on the needs. Different kinds of information is provided for the benefit of the media audiences. So like movie programs, weather reports, or the movie reviews, book reviews, or advertisements, or any information relates to the job, houses, or any other real estate information, or political information, or the information relates to the government schemes, what is happening in the society. Now, if you see the Ukraine, the war, this is the prime important story of the today and yesterday. So here, the media disseminates a lot of information for the benefit of the mass media audiences. Unless the media provides information, unless the media provides information, the individuals will not be able to know what is happening throughout the globe. And there is a context when media disseminates information, and there is also a purpose. We also have a consequence, or the purpose. We depend on the media for various reasons. So here, the rise of the internet is something which enabled us to access to a lot of information which has been disseminated by the mass media channels, whether it is the magazines also available on internet in the form of e-magazines, and the newspapers. We have some of the papers exclusively launched on the online platforms, and some of the newspapers we have, they also have their own e-newspapers on the online platforms. Apart from that, a lot of information is disseminated by using the internet as a platform, and we have or exclusively each channel also have its own web platforms to disseminate information, along with using the traditional mass media channels to disseminate the information. So here, journalism is something which provides answers to various questions, like the 5 Ws and 1H: who's, what, where, when, why, and how an incident happened, or how the event has happened. So all these 5 Ws, 1H information, generally it is covered under the lead. What we call lead is the story printed in a newspaper. So here, the media satisfies the needs of the individuals by providing all this information. Who are the one who are involved in the news story, and what happened to the individuals or the people who are involved, where the incident which happened, when it has happened, why it has happened, what is the context or what is the motive behind the incident or the event which has happened, and how that event has happened. So all that information is provided by the profession called journalism, and there are the one who act as the journalists who work for the media institutions. They are the one who are disseminating information on behalf of the media organizations. So here, if you see the event from the, yes, Durga, please mute yourself. Hmm. Okay, so here the mass media information, it is not when we see that dissemination of information from the spot to the screen, there are many individuals who are involved in disseminating the information from the spot. If you see, the event happens and the event is going to be covered by the journalist, and from there they write the copy, and the here the individual decides on who are the sources who the journalist can contact, and the way it has to be written, etc., is decided by the reporter. After that, he writes the copy, and the copy reaches the general desk, and where there are sub editors who looks for the errors in the copy. They may rewrite the story if needed, or they integrate the copy, which means they combine the information which is related to a single story which is being received by the media institution from different sources. Apart from that, they look for the errors. And then after that, it reaches the designing and layout section where the stories are accommodated and designed. Then it goes for the production room, and from where it is printed, and it is again circulated and distributed to the readers. So in that way, news is disseminated. So it is not a single person who is disseminating information, but a formal media organization. There are number of people who are working in the media institution. They are the one who are disseminating information for the interest of the public. So here, the success of a communication depends on how a message is transmitted and why the information is disseminated, whether the information has any relevance for the reader or the mass media audiences. Unless there is a need, or unless the information is relevant for the receiver, then as we have discussed in under the communication, when the information is not relevant for the receiver, simply they reject the information. So keeping in view the larger public interest, we have to, as a journalist, disseminate information for the benefit of the mass media audiences. So here, journalism is acting in the public interest. The public interest is nothing but for the good of the public or the society it is working and it is disseminating the information. It also maintains the public trust. Yes, media has a credibility, and whatever the media disseminates the information, as the consumers we believe the information which is presented by the media. But there is another context there. The media might also disseminate the information which we call it as a propaganda information or propaganda communication. So where the media may also present some information which is in the form of the news or editorials or maybe any other form or publicity, etc. It also provides information. It might also provide the misleading information, and it also may change the perceptions of the people regarding a cause or a position. But here, there are the individuals who are acting as the sources of information, the propaganda information, and with the help of the advertisements or with the help of the media or any other uh, by using different platforms of media, they may disseminate the information. And there is a lot of information also might be provided which is misleading information. But media, as it has a responsibility towards the citizens, it provides information which is accurate, true, and they also maintain balance while presenting information. So media is something which is exposing the things which are happening in a society, or it also as it is acting as a watchdog of the society. It is looking after all the pillars of the democracy, which may provide the information which is relevant for the uh, readers. And it also detects or the information or which is digging into the scandals or anything which is happening in a society, and that is going to be exposed by the media. And when it comes to the crime also, media is something which is digging into the facts relates to a crime, and they expose the details relates to a crime. And while contacting different sources like police, victims, and the eyewitnesses and the incident where it happens, the people who are involved in the crime, etc. The media provides a balanced information related to a particular story. So because of that, the different views of a particular story, if they provide, we come to believe the information which is presented by the media. Protects the public health and safety by disseminating information in the interest of the public. So here media also, if you also know that there are different programs which are being broadcast by the media organizations, channels, and health programs are transmitted by the radio, and there are also special pages which are printed in newspapers, and along with that there are also specialized magazines which are there to promote the health and safety of the individuals in a society. And here, the media also prevents the individuals from being misled by organizations or individuals with misinformation or disinformation, what we call the fake information. So here, the media is acting uh, in the way it is also acting as a watchdog of the society, and is also serving the public interest. Along with that, media also has ethical principles. The media is organizations also are following. So we have the NBA News Broadcasters Association, which is looking after the news and current affairs channels, and there are also the PCI, the Press Council of India, which is a regulatory body of the press in our country, that is also providing the channels. And keeping in view the ethical principles, keeping in view the media laws which are journalists, etc., keeping in view that the media organizations has to function and the news has to be disseminated in a way that has to be disseminated for the uh, benefit of the mass media audiences. Then we have sources of information. Sources are nothing but the individuals who provide information for the journalists. Generally, there are organizations like municipalities, government organizations, or judiciary, or we also have health departments, ministries, secretariat, education department, higher education councils, or the government PIB, etc. All of them acts as the sources of information, and there are also individuals who act as the sources of information. They provide information to the journalists. And when a journalist receives any information in confidence and the source does not want to be named or given a credit in the news story, in those kind of cases, the journalist also has to follow the ethical principles, and they should not mention the name of the source according to a authentic source or according to anonymous source, etc. They should not mention the name of the source. But when it is questioned in a court of law, generally the journalist can disseminate the information. Page number, please. I don't know, just it is under 9.3 activity and it disconnects. Okay. So here the confidentiality of the news sources also should be maintained by the journalists. And when you want to record the information from the source, you have to take consent from the sources. Then only you can record and you can quote the source when you disseminate the information for the public using the mass media as the channels of communication. So here, uh, there are different elements the journalists look for when assessing the viability of a story. So, what are the important aspects we have to keep in mind when we look for a story? What stories we can accommodate, kind of thing, etc. So, here the power elites, stories which are concerning to the powerful individuals, organizations, and institutions. Powerful individuals like we have celebrities or the government like Modi. Now, if you see the Putin and other source, uh, like that, the media is looking after the individuals or those in holding powerful positions or powerful in society, or the organizations and institutions which have some name or a fame, then those kind of organizations, etc., the media look after while reporting the incidents, etc. Then celebrity related stories, story concerning the people who are having some kind of fame, like celebrities or the political leaders or those who are holding highest positions in government or the private sector, etc. All of them when we are looking for the stories. Entertainment information which provides entertainment, which may also can be considered as a news story by the journalist. Concerning any stories relates to the sex, humor. Okay. Oh, are able to hear me now? Yes, there is a network issue, I believe.
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
So anything which provides entertainment, anything which is which gives some kind of evoke some kind of attention or human interest, etc. And anything which unfolds the drama or anything which the public may consider as the important information, etc., that is going to be accommodated as a news story. And surprise, any story which has element called surprise or anything unexpected thing which happened in the society, then that can also have a news value. Anything which is good, anything which is bad, good news for the public, etc., or positive overtones such as the rescues and cures, etc., or bad news, negative overtones such as conflict and tragedy. Now, what we see, the Ukraine war. In that kind of thing, we can consider as a bad news, and if the war is going to be called off, we may consider it as a good news as the general public. So, the same way, relevance, any stories which are relevant for the groups, individuals, or any information which is related to the nation, etc., then that can also be seen as a story which is relevant for the public. Then follow-up stories, any incident which is already covered by in the form of a news, we may also look for the follow-up, what has happened to the particular story or the people who are involved in the story, etc. Then that also becomes as a news. And media agenda, as we have already discussed, media is something which sets an agenda for the public. They discuss the incidents or the information or the events they disseminate by setting an agenda for the public. Order of prioritization is done by the media, and as the individuals, we also set an agenda of ourselves, and we may only look for the stories which we think which are important in our life. Then those kind of information. So here, the media journalists, when assessing the viability of your story, mind all this information, the power elite, celebrity, entertainment, surprise, bad news, good news, uh, then relevance, follow-up, and all that information, whether a story can be accommodated, keeping in view the organization's policy or not, keeping in view all this information, the media journalists are the one who are filtering the information or selecting the stories for the benefit of the mass media audiences. Then there is a person called CP Scott who says that facts are sacred and comment is free. Yes, the facts we cannot tamper or we cannot alter, but the what we call the comment is free. The comments can be made by an individual, and it is something his own point of view or his own opinion, and individual can express their point of view or they can comment on different issues which are happening in a society, but the facts remain the same. We cannot tamper with the facts. And while providing the information for the public, as a journalist, the media organization or the journalist has to follow certain ethical principles and high standards of professional journalism by maintaining balance, providing accurate information, and the news by reporting in a objective manner. They have to maintain the high standards of professional journalism while reporting the stories. And here, the journalists also have the freedom of speech and expression, but the freedom of speech and expression cannot be misused by the journalists. And the journalists have to report the news with, with a great sense of responsibility towards his readers or towards the audiences, the media audiences. So the journalists have a special responsibility, and they have to take a responsibility by providing information, by providing accurate or objective information for the benefit of the mass media audiences. Here, journalism, we consider it as a mirror of the society, because whatever is happening in a society, the same thing is going to be reflected by the media. So depending on the incidents which are happening, the events which are unfolding, or things which are happening in a society, based on that only the media organizations will present the information. The stories are made on the themes which are happening in the society based on the different issues, or it also reflects as it is whatever is happening in a society in the form of providing the news for the public. And here, while presenting any information as a journalist, the journalist has to maintain the balance by uh, providing the news in a objective way for the benefit of the readers. And any information, it should promote the well-being of the individuals in a society. And media, as journalists, they have a special responsibility. They have to promote the harmony in the country or communal harmony, etc. But they should not present story which may incite to communal violence or provoke individuals in a society. So that as journalists, when presenting stories, they have to keep in mind how the information or the news is made by public life, keeping in view the consequences, the further consequences which are going to uh, bring by the news, etc. Keeping in view that the media has to present the stories. And when you see the qualities of a journalist, what are the qualities a journalist has to have? First thing, foremost important thing is the journalist has to have nose for the news. The journalist should have can the journalist can smell the news. For example, when we look at the ordinary individuals, for example, a beggar is sitting and having his food with dirty hands, and he must be dressed in a way is not so appealing, etc. We may, as a society, may feel bad, but as a journalist, he should take into this into a lot of information. He may look for the person who belongs to where or what he is doing, what is his problem, etc. And looking at that, he may also get different ideas to look for the government initiatives or what is happening in the society, why these beggars are on the roads, etc., why the government is not taking care of them, or what are the social consequences which force them to beg in the streets, etc. So, like that, a journalist can sense the news, and the human being may have, by looking at the individuals, we may just empathize or we may have a personal emotional feeling, but a journalist may look uh, when look at the subjects, he may get ideas, etc. So journalists should have a journalist, good journalist can have the sense of uh, nose for the news. Then a journalist should have vast knowledge about various issues or the things which are happening in a society. He should have knowledge about the law, religion, culture, business, politics, war, economics, etc. And he should also have knowledge related to the music, films, politics, government, its policies, its decisions, or they also should know the history of the each country or the districts or the states, etc. And they must have different kinds of information they must know, because they might be assigned different duties or they need to cover different beats when it is needed. So in those kind of cases, the journalist, if you're a journalist, a person wants to become a good journalist, he must have good knowledge about various issues or the aspects of a society. And a journalist, to become a good journalist, he must also be a good reader. He must consume a lot of information from the media. He must read newspapers, magazines, journals, books, periodicals, mythological stories, etc., so that he may gain a vast variety of knowledge from all these kind of sources. A journalist must have strong desire to learn new things, new subjects, so that he can increase his knowledge levels on different aspects. For example, earlier journalists used to write the news on the papers, but now writing on a paper is replaced by typing in a computer, or maybe typing in a phone, etc., and keeping in view the new technologies which are replacing with the existing traditional ways of uh, writing, etc. He must also learn the things or the subjects or the technology so that he can fit into the profession called journalism. And he should also have a desire to learn the new things, or uh, technology savvy he must also become when using technology for the purpose of working in a media organization, etc. And a journalist also should be a visionary. When a person is having want to be as a journalist, he should also have a vision to reach his own goal or to work for the institution, and he should also have a sense of responsibility towards the public he is serving, etc. And a journalist, is not like an ordinary person, and he should be alert at all times, looking at the uh, things, events which are unfolding. For example, if he is working for the covering the war, Ukraine war, he must be very careful while clicking the pictures, while writing the story, or while taking out the notes. And sometimes it also he there is a need, his life is also at risk, and keeping in view all the circumstances which are happening in a particular place, etc., he has to work for the organization. And a journalist, to become a good journalist, he should also have strong determination to succeed in his career. To succeed in his career, he has to develop the skills, he has to develop the writing ability, presenting ability. He also has to uh, gain knowledge relates to different subjects. And a journalist also must be able to adjust with the times. For example, when just now I said a journalist might be assigned to cover a beat of anything. So he must also has to travel, he has to adjust with the culture, people, etc. And sometimes a journalist might not get the appreciation or welcome, but he might also face harsh situations, and he might not have any facilities also. In those kind of situations also, he must also has to work to meet the deadlines. And uh, and sometimes he may also has to take risks, his life also under threat while covering a war news, etc. And a person he wants a good journalist, he should also have courage, like the mental stress he should not take, and while covering the communal riots, wars, covering disturbances, etc., the emotional feelings he has to keep aside, and he has to work for the media organization. And to reach, sometimes there might not he might not have facilities to travel to the scene or the place of incident, but he has to walk to reach the place. In those kind of situations also, he has to go and report the incident. So because of that, he should have courage to work as a journalist. And responsibility of a journalist is to provide the accurate, balanced, fair information for the public on the issues which may affect the public life. So here, the journalist has to invest his time, and he has to interview, contact the different sources, dig into the public records and contact different sources of information, visit the scene of a place, etc., to cover the incidents which are happening in a society. And sometimes he may also has to uh, work to find out, digging into the story. A lot of time he might take to get a story released to a particular event. Then even a journalist also, a journalist may get a byline, but there are number of people who are involved in printing a story or carrying out a story by the broadcast media. So here, the journalist also should have good communication skills. He may also able to persuade the audience or sources of information information from the sources. And also the journalist has to present the information which is accurate, well balanced, and he should keep prejudices, his views, his opinion leads to a story aside. He has to present the information in a balanced way. The accurate, objective information only he has to present for the journalist. And journalist also must be honest. That is also one of the important characteristic of a journalist. Yes. So when it comes to the media ethics, so the media is expanding very fast, and we have 24 into 7 channels which are working. And as a journalist, we have to meet the deadlines. And here, it is also important to follow certain ethics which are being provided by the PCI, Press Council of India, or NBA, or any other organization to meet the deadlines. Here, the media professionals, to increase the credibility or reliability, etc., they have to follow certain ethics. And media, as it is acting as a watchdog of the society, it has to present the accurate and objective information for the benefit of the mass media audiences. Like each profession, how they have ethics, media organizations also have certain ethics to follow, and the journalist also has to follow the ethical principles while reporting a story. And it gives them a kind of sense of satisfaction, and it also may make them more sensible and responsible citizens while covering the information for the benefit of the public. Then if you see, there are certain guidelines or the principles which are provided by the uh, Press Council of India. Those guidelines or the ethical principles we will discuss today. So here, the news. The first, more foremost important aspect of the ethical principles is the information should be presented in a way which is acceptable for the public. Accuracy and fairness, maintenance of accuracy and fairness. So here, the as a journalism, the fundamental duty of a journalism is to provide information keeping in view the interest of the public. The media has to provide the news, views, comments, information on matters of public interest in a fair, accurate, balanced, decent manner. And no information should be presented which is based on the rumors or misleading information. A journalist should not publish in a newspaper. All sides of a particular issue has to be presented so that a balance is maintained in presenting a story for the benefit of the readers. And any information which is likely to promote any kind of violence in a society, those kind of information cannot be published. Even though it is published in the interest of the public, the tone and tenor must be acceptable, and the information should not provoke the sentiments of the individuals in a society. And when a person makes any statements relates to any information, the statements can be as it is carried by the media organizations, but the information based on the rumors or any misinformation, the journalist should not publish using the media as a platform. And the journalist should judge no one is unheard, which means when all the people who are involved in a particular story, etc., all sides of a particular story has to be provided. Just now I said, if you are reporting on a crime, you should you should contact the eyewitnesses, you should meet the victim, their family, you should also take into account the police version or the culprit or the suspect's version, eyewitnesses version. All that information you have to provide when you are writing a story relates to a crime. And caution against defamatory writing. So here, before you publish any information, if the information relates to a person or a organization or the government or individuals, etc., if it is going to defame the reputation of an individual, you have to be very careful in presenting that kind of information. If you are if you have evidence, or if the information is true according to the various reports or the sources, you can present the story. But the information, misleading information, if you are printing in your newspapers, then you are liable for the consequences. And the individuals, for damaging their reputation, they may file a suit in your high court or a supreme court or any other court for the for damaging their reputation. And pre-publication verification is the important aspect. Before publishing any news, it is the responsibility of the concerned editor, the journalist, etc., to look for the information, cross verify the information relates to a person, organization, or a public servant or a public figure. So here, pre-publication verification is also must be done before a news is going to be disseminated for the public. Then privacy. So each individual have their own privacy. Privacy is nothing but it relates to a person's home, sexuality, religion, health, personal life, family, private affairs, etc. All these are considered as the private information or privacy information. And the journalism or the journalists nowhere have any right to invade the privacy of individuals. And the degree of privacy may be different from one individual to the other. When you compare the normal individual with the celebrity might not have the same degree of privacy when you compare with the ordinary citizen. But when we are reporting on the character of the public or the celebrity, you must be very careful. And the pre-publication verification has to be done before it is published. So privacy, invasion of privacy is also an offense, and right to privacy is considered as a fundamental right. The Supreme Court of India said that right to privacy should be protected under Article 21 of the Indian Constitution, which speaks right to life, and under Article 14, right to equality, and Article 19, the freedom of the freedom, right to freedom. So here, because of that, no, the media institutions should not invade the privacy of individual with their reporting. When we are reporting on the crimes relates to the women, sexual assault on children or child abuse, raising doubts relates to the character of woman, etc., special care must be taken. The names, photographs of the victims of human trafficking, rape, molestation, etc., should not be published. Names, photographs, or any information which leads to the identity of a person should not be printed in the newspapers, and it should not be carried in the broadcast media. Because if you publish the information relates to the name or the family details, etc., it may cause embarrassment to the family members in a society, and it may also affect their relations with the family, friends, and community, etc., the members of the community, etc. So because of that, the journalist has to take special care when reporting on the issues relates to women, the crimes reporting relates to the women. And here, when you are reporting on the victims also, when a suspect, the names of the suspect, the family details, etc., should not be carried by the media. So here, the suspect sometimes might be an innocent person who may come out of the trial, etc. So in those kind of cases, the journalist has to maintain uh, uh, they should maintain the confidentiality of the victim and also the suspect. And corrections, any information which is printed in the newspaper, if it is incorrect, generally in those kind of cases, the newspaper itself has to present publish a apology note, and they have to correct the information which is printed in the previous day. It is also the duty of the concerned editor of the newspaper. So here, the right of reply, any person who is aggrieved by the publication of any information or non-publication of any information, the readers may approach the editor of the particular newspaper. And in those kind of cases, the information, the rejoinder must be published in the newspaper by the editor, keeping a note saying that relates to the errors which are printed in the newspaper. And the same has to be communicated to the individual who is aggrieved by the publication of any story. And letters to the editor, here the individuals, they may uh, give their opinion in the form of the feedback, and the feedback uh, of the individual readers must be published under the letters to the editor column, and keep there, depending on the space available, some of the letters might not be printed in the newspaper page, but it is the responsibility of the newspaper to publish the letters to the editor. And here, the newspaper also should maintain self-regulation in exercising the freedom of speech and expression, and any information which is going to cause any kind of uh, problem in a society or to the public order, morality, etc., that information should not be carried in the newspapers. And when reporting on the communal violence, so sensational, provocative, alarming headlines should not be given to the stories which relates to communal violence, and the headings which must justify the information which is said under the headline. Wise figures of the victims or the culprit, etc., may cause which may promote communal violence. So, media, as it has a social responsibility, it has to avoid those kind of information. But the history of information related to the communal incidents may be presented by the media, but it should be in a way to promote the communal harmony in the country. Those kind of information they can present. And plagiarism. So the journalist should not print any information or the news which is being of somebody else as it's their own, etc. So here the individuals must credit the source of the information if they are printing in their papers, but the ideas of somebody else be printed as their own information. It is presenting acts of violence, armed forces, robberies, terrorist attacks, etc. All that information or the news should not be glorified by the media. Then caution must be taken while reporting on the judicial acts. So anything if you publish which is leads to the contempt of court, that kind of information, if you want to avoid, you must report the judgments or the judicial acts or the judgments in a way they have to be presented. So caution must be taken when you are reporting on the judicial acts. Then photographs of the dead bodies of the victims of crime and accidents, etc. The personal grief, if you are taking the pictures relates to the personal grief of the individuals, should be avoided. So, if it is relates to the communal violence, etc. If you are clicking the pictures of the dead bodies or which may glorify the violence or which may provoke the sentiments of the individuals, then caste, religion and community disclosures are to be avoided by the journalists when you are reporting on the issues relates to the caste community, the individuals who belong to different castes or communities, etc. You should not mention the caste like Harijan or a Muslim girl kind of words you should not use while presenting news relates to the persons. And because which may promote communal violence or which may create some kind of tension within the communities. And it is also the responsibility of the editor of a particular newspaper, whatever is printed in the newspaper pages, it is his own responsibility. So the journalist must be very careful before anything is disseminated in the form of the printed news in his with the help of his newspaper. And the same way, if it is carried in the broadcast media, it is also the duty of the concerned editor of the particular broadcast media to see that the news which is disseminated is true, accurate, unbiased information. And confidence to be respected. So here, when a journalist or the newspaper organization, etc., receives any information in confidence, the confidence of the source must be protected and respected. But when a court asks for the information to reveal the sources of information, then that can be revealed within the court of uh, law by the journalist or the media organization. Otherwise, the confidentiality of the sources of information should be maintained. So these are the some of the principles a journalist has to follow while reporting the news. The first thing is anything the news should be presented in a fair, accurate, objective, sober, decent manner. The communal violence should not be glorified. The headlines must reflect what is presented in the story, and media has the responsibility. It has to promote the communal harmony in the country. Caste and community-wide disclosure of any information related to a person, etc., should be avoided. Violence should not be glorified by the media. Then we have plagiarism. A journalist should not print any information released which is created by somebody else as his own. That should be avoided by the media institution. And privacy of individuals are to be respected by the media, and invasion of the privacy should be avoided by the media organizations. And right to reply any information which is printed, the mistakes, if the journalist or the media organization prints, then they have to rectify, and a rejoinder has to be printed in the newspaper, keeping in view the sentiments of the individuals. Then violence, glorifying the violence should be avoided. Anything which is obscene, vulgar, indecent, etc., all that printing of those kind of information or advertisements should be avoided by the media organizations. And uh, confidential, then while reporting relates to the women and children, the identity disclosure should be avoided. So any the photographs, names, or the family details should not be published by the media, or any other information which leads to the identity of the victim, etc., should be avoided. And when we are reporting on the other side, the suspects or the culprits, etc., the same way, the details relates to the family or relatives or other information should be, printing of that information should be avoided by the media. Okay. uh, we'll stop here. Tomorrow we'll discuss unit 4. Okay.
Okay, ma'am.
So is this clear? Just if you have there is one book called Kevalchai Kumar, Introduction to Media or Mass Communication in India. That book you can refer for the Code of Ethics, or the Code of Ethics which is there in online. You can go to the Press Council of India website, and the Code of Ethics for Journalists is there. You can just download that. You have 120 or 110 pages booklet is there, but you can just briefly you can read from that book. Yes, I'm leaving the session. Tomorrow we'll discuss the unit 4.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yes, thank